Hello, and welcome to today's video called Mastering Competition Sudoku. I'm going to be telling the story of some of the classic puzzles that appeared on the 2026 US Sudoku team qualifying test, particularly ones that I had made. We will go through the other puzzles in future videos in the series. Before diving in, I want to highlight that SudokuCon is coming up on July 30th through August 2nd. While the live event is in Manchester, United Kingdom, and it may be late for some people to plan their travel, for sure tickets are still on sale if you can show up in Manchester, and secondarily, live stream tickets are available if you just want to follow along and be included. We have ways to include some of the activities, the construction, solving activities as you go. SudokuCon was my favorite event from last year, met a whole lot of connections and just cool people in Sudoku. It's a place I'm going to be giving a talk this year again on some classic Sudoku and have some other activities there. Grandmaster Puzzles is a sponsor of SudokuCon, but we're happy to be a sponsor, and we look forward to seeing viewers like you at SudokuCon either this time or in the future as it keeps happening. The next year is planned for Ottawa, Canada. The dates and other venues will be announced in the future. Okay, today's video, Mastering Competition Sudoku. Let's turn on a clock. We'll figure out when we get to the clock. We're going to go through 3 classic Sudoku I wrote, and we're going to solve in a kind of competition solving mode. I'm going to try to talk out loud as I'm going. Maybe there's some useful things to catch along in terms of how I use my kind of notation. There's actually more to my notation than I think people know. We're going to solve the first puzzle, which is called 1 versus many. We're going to solve a puzzle called T-ball. We're going to solve a puzzle called 26. And then secondarily, we're going to come back and talk through some curious construction observations or solving tips for the future. Things which are about the meta game of being good at competitions, which is know your constructors, know things they like to look at. For sure with me, know a lot about Sudoku geometry. I love playing with different geometries, including geometries I've used before. In future videos, not today's video, we'll talk through some of the Sudoku variants, but today is for classics, and we're going to dive right in. Let me get up the first puzzle, which is 1 versus many. Now I'm thinking about, like, I'm downloading the test, I'm ready for the password to come on the computer, I'm visualizing success, like that sort of helps me sometimes. I'm remembering my basics in the first puzzle, or like look across sets of 3 rows at a time or 3 columns at a time for numbers I see twice and just start notation. If that flow is working, keep with it. If that flow doesn't seem to be working, think that bigger picture for a little bit of time. Tyler Chen, who made some of the other classics, Rebecca Chang, and me as the third author for this competition. We're all pretty creative makers of these puzzles, so a lot to work through here. I'm seeing an overweighted grid with the bottom rows and the rightmost columns being most useful. So I'm looking across these. I see 2 2s. I want to place a 2 in the space, but I have a 2 up above. I see 2 8s giving me an 8 note. I see 2 9s giving me a 9 note. I see 2 5s giving me a 5 placement. I can use this 1 from above to do a little here, but I don't have a 6 down below, so this doesn't resolve yet. Coming this direction, I have 2 2s looking vertically here, and they work with the same 2 in the center, so it looks like all the 2s are having some helpful collisions there. I'm just going to mark these 2 notes because I have that 2 just being placed. This 8 and 8 working together give an 8 in these cells. Sorry, that should be an 8. This 3 working up here puts a 3 in these cells. I have 2 5s. Trying to see if I have other things that I have 2 of. Oh, here it is, 2 7s. I didn't do that perfectly, but where across these cells, this must be the 7. These 7s now put a 7 in this position, so this region or this region are where the tension will come in. I'm for sure seeing some things with both the 4s and the 6s. I'm looking at 1 4 and 6 collectively. This is actually a single right now, but let's do it this way. This 4 and this 4 give this 4. This 6 coming down gives a 6. We're left with that 1. That now removes this. We have 1 and 8 to place. We're left with a 6-9 pair over here. This row is finished with a 1. This space is finished with a 6 and 4. The 6 is up above, so here's the 6, here's the 4. Let's get the 6 up to the top. There's 2 spots for a 4 here, and all these spaces just for this 1. So this cell is a 3-4 by value, but I'm not going to go ahead and mark these this way. I don't tend to. So I'm just for the sake of how it would look on paper, I'll at least follow up though that this 1 is sweeping this column, this 1 is sweeping across, so I do have a 1 note across these positions. That places a 1 note here. I haven't really looked in the center, but I'm drawn a little bit from the side. 3, 7, and 8 aren't across these cells, so this looks like a magic cell, but let's just do it simpler this way. The 7 and the 7 give a 7 in this position. That moves a 7 here and a 7 here. This 3 is now limited to 2 spots, and this 8 to 2 spots. So I could have seen that this is a triple with 3, 8, 7. That means this is 1 and 9, but actually there's a 9 right there. This is a single 1. Does that give me enough right now? Well, it puts some more tension over here in the grid. This 3 actually is now pointing into the cell, so this can't be a 3. And these can't be a 3, so here's our sure 3. That puts a 3 up here at the very top, puts a 4 into the cell. That removes this option. This is now a 1 with an 8. The 1 is not able to be in row 4, so these get canceled. This 1 note moves over, moving up a 5. Last position in this column is a 4. Let's not overrun our progress. So where more do we want to mark some things? We put in these 1s. Let's come back over here. Where is a 1 in row 5? It's not in column 1 or 3, so here is the 1. Moves over the 2, puts in a final 2 notation. This row is finished with a 9. That 9 steers into the 9-6 pair. These 9s want to go in these cells and these cells. I'm now seeing I actually have 1s right near a 1, so I want to clean up my notation, put in the 1 I know. That puts in these 9s I know. This is now a 3-8 up here to the extent I want to notate it. This is a 4, a 6 somewhere in this column. We need a 5 is sort of down here. I sort of want to come back to this side. I haven't really looked at these triples. Any of them could be useful. This is 6, 7, and 8. Those values down below are in these positions, so notice how the 6 and 8 come over here, and that forces a 7 in the cell. That now puts a 7 in here. I actually get a pair here. I could use that pretty quickly before I jump all the way to it. Let's look at 3, 4, and 5. Here's 3, 4, and 5. This has to be the 4. That means this is 3 and 5. That means this is a 6, 8 pair. I think this still is just also singles, but the pairs will help you be even faster. The 4 I just placed puts a 4 over here in row 3. In column 1. That moves up a 4 here, moves down this 2, clears out this note. That 2 cancels this 2 note, so 2 over 7. Cancels the 7 note. 7 is up top here. We've left this column empty except for a 6. That 6 interacts with 2 of our notes, so we'll just remember that before we move off the progress. But 6 and 3 clear out over here. We need a 6 still in the space. It's going to be right here. We now come back to the notes we were clearing out and put in 6 and 8. How do those 8s work? Need an 8 here and an 8 here to finish them. 3 comes into this puzzle. Looks like 3s and 5s just to go. 3s in the higher row in these spots and on the left versus the 5 on the right there. So a little bit slow because we were talking through the things, but a good early Sudoku solve. Coming back to our solving again, let's just look in the columns first here. I'm looking for values I see twice. I see 2 1s, I'm putting in a 1. I see 2 4s, I can't put in a 4. I don't want to put things where I have 3 options. I see an 8. I'm noticing there's not a ton of tension here. 2 8s. This column is no repeats. Here's a 6 repeat over here. No other repeats in those zones. 2 9s here, nothing to go there. 2 4s here, nothing to go there. Okay. Snyder notation, as you know, it doesn't work in this puzzle. Let's just allow that. Some puzzles aren't built to have hidden singles or hidden notation do as much. And what I'm actually noticing is there are some very empty rows and some very empty columns, actually 1 in each chute. That's a really good sign that you're going to have some trouble making some placements because like our best case, here are 2 8s, here's 3 spots for an 8, and there are no 8s in the other part of the grid. So it's not going to give you a single. So what do we want to think about next? Let's look for singles or by-value cells from the naked single solving approach. So we're looking at every other value we see, what is left over in these cells. This cell sees 8 things, but 2 of them are the same, 2 4s, but I see 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so this is 3 and 9. This sees 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, this is 2 and 3. This still has 2, 3, 7, and 9 as choices, not as good. These cells aren't as constrained, but we'll look at them. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Oh, they're still coming to be pairs, so there's a lot of structure right now in this grid. This is a 4, 7, 9 cell. I won't mark it in. It's not a by-value cell. These cells over here are just as constrained as these. These are positions that have 8 numbers they see, so large chance they're going to get fully canceled. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, a by-value, not what I'm looking for, which is a single, but still a good use. It seems this structure is giving us more helpful notation this time. Here's a 2, 4 cell. This sees 1, 2, 3, 4. This sees 5, 6, 7. This is an 8, 9 cell. We're now going to come back and sweep the last positions here, and we're going to run into the theme of this puzzle. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 gives a 2, 4 cell here. This has 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is a 3, 9 cell here. And take my word that this is an 8, 9 cell here. What's actually happening is we have a 5, 6, 7 triple that's forcing pairs in these cells, in these rows that don't themselves have 5, 6, and 7. So something weird is going on in these cells. They are collectively going to have to be 5, 6, and 7. But there's a little more that we have in the structure of this puzzle that we can use. So let's just come across these. This for sure has all the choices to it. This isn't a 6. This isn't a 5. This isn't a 5, this isn't a 7, this isn't a 6. This has all these choices to it. This isn't a 5, this isn't a 6 or a 7. This is the critical cell. This one in the corner is the one you have to fill in. A few ways you can spot it. Like you can spot this 8-9 pair and then work out that this is a single because 6 and 7 are already in the zone. You can work out that this 6 and 7 collectively form this 6-7 pair. But zooming all the way out, you can find that there's this cool 5-6-7 structure across these cells where we're just set up to actually place a lot of values pretty quickly. Let's look at just 5s, 6s, and 7s and see how that goes. So we have this single here. These two 5s place this 5. These 5s now place this 5. These 5s place this 5. These 5s have to come in here. These 5s give the last 5 in the puzzle. If we hadn't made this notation before, we'd now see that this is left to be only a 7 and a 6. This is left to be only a 6 and a 7. This is left now to be a 6 and a 7. Let's still do more with those numbers. 2 7s on the right, say a 7 is down here. The 7 I'm coming across with the 7 from up above places a 7 here, last 7 in column 3, and last 7 in the puzzle. Before we overrun everything, we need to place the 6s. This is the last spot for a 6 in box 1. Here's a 6 in the lower left, and the last 6 is going to be here in the middle, and it's in that cell. So good headway to here. What do we want to do next? Well, we have potentially some of these other values to think about. We can still go back to some basic Sudoku notation and work at this time. Like one thing I see is that, well, actually I've got 2 columns that are almost full. Like never forget to look for like full houses where you can place them. So this column's finished with just a 2. This 2 and this 2 work together to give this 2. It looks like that doesn't do more of 2s at this moment. Here is a 3 for sure. That still leaves now these positions looking to the right for 3s, but it now makes it clear I have a 2-9 set here. That puts a 2 for sure in one of these cells, and these 9s were collectively to put a 9 here. So this is a 2-3 pair, a 1-4 pair. This is a 3-8 pair. The number I placed, though, was the 9s. That's the one I want to think about. It's actually saying the tension is these are where the 9s go in the top 2 boxes in the middle. So this is the only place for a 9. Alternatively, we just mark that this is a single 8. But you can place this 9, this 4 canceling places this 4 and this 8. This column now sweeps out. Again, through the structure of this puzzle, this 8 coming to the left puts in an 8 and a 3. This 8 we just placed puts in this 8 and 9. That 9 clears this 9 and 3 space. Can I do more of this? I have 1 and 4 in this zone. 1 for sure here. This is 3 and 9 in this zone, but I have a 9 down below. So this is a 9 and a 3. Putting in a 3 now in this position. This is 2 and 4. Notice that this 1 now is forced to just this position, puts in a 1 and a 4. We now may finally get this 4, but before we could have also eliminated here to do this. We get a 4 and a 2. This is 2, 8, still to be thought through. And how can we do this? This 9 coming across, 9 puts in 2, puts in this 4, puts in a 4 and a 1, and a 1, and an 8, and an 8, and an 8, and a 2, and a 2, and a 3, and a 3, and a 9. And we are through this grid. Let's move on to 26. We're seeing a big 2-6 theme, and a lot of the puzzles in this championship ended up with big 2-6 themes, but we're going to still start with our standard Sudoku solving steps. So I'm now going to look in the top 3 rows collectively. I'm looking for numbers I see twice. I'm going to try to make notations for them. So here's an either or 4, like putting in either or notes, nothing else. In the middle, I see 2 1s, which place a 1 note. I see 2 4s, which place a 4 note. I see more about these values. I'm going to come back to that in a second, but if I'm just looking for doubles, I would miss that geometrically. Here's a fun thing, but maybe for last year's puzzle, there's a 2-5 set. This is a 26 puzzle, but a 25 puzzle works with these values giving a pair. Let's still work around this, though. If we've just marked that in, 3, 6, 7, and 9 look to be what's left. I only have 3s and 9s in these spaces, but it looks like collectively one of these 2 cells and only those 2 cells can still be a 3, and one of those 2 cells and only those 2 cells can still be a 9. I'm left with a 6, 7 in the other spot. So I'm really tempted to think about those positions. It's great progress for a puzzle like this, so you want to sometimes hone in on those spots when you find them. But for right now, I'm not seeing more I can do with them. Looking in the leftmost columns, I have 2 5s, so I can place a 5 note here with that given 5. I have 2 4s. I can place this 4 note. Not more yet with those. 2 3s places this 3 note at the top. 2 4s, I'm looking for a 4 note here. 2 7s, but still all the choices for those 7s. Those are the repeats I see. And over here we have the 2 1s, and we can't place more of them. So now we're going to look back at the geometry of this grid. And for sure, we're not going to forget the fact that actually, well, here it is, 2 2s. I could place a 2 note here. Looking across this way, I see that this is a space where if I can sweep across this row or down this column, obviously this column is empty, so just like the last puzzle, the empty column is not so helpful. This is the only 6 in the grid. I'm thinking about 6s over here, but I'm really thinking about, oh, there's a 2-6 pair. And I'm reflecting on the fact that this is a 2026 puzzle, so maybe there's something to think about with these values. What can I do next with these values? I can mark that a 6 is up in the top down here. I can mark a 6 is over these spaces. I can mark this as like a 4-7 cell. This is a 1-8 cell. Like those aren't my typical notation, so I'll mark those back. I may catch on to the fact that this grid has some really constrained rows. Here are 3 cells in this row. Here are 3 cells in this row. Here are 3 cells in this row. These rows don't have any 6s. So there is a swordfish at the start, even if you don't spot this pair. But seeing this pair, it now puts tension across these positions. So let's cancel the orange. Let's put in the pink. And then let's talk through this. A 6 isn't in these cells. So a 6 is going to be in column 1 or column 9 in row 2. A 6 is going to be in column 1 or column 9 in row 8. And that means there's no 6 here. There's no 6 here. We'd actually start to do things like the X-Wing form is we'd put a 6 notation in these spots because we've canceled these cells with the given 6 and the X-Wing. And then we finally get a 6 right here. But our swordfish would have told us in the same way, that cell can't be a 6 because all the colored cells in orange and pink are where 6s go, and so that eliminates here. So whether you place a 2 or a 6, your early numbers in the 26 puzzle are 2s and 6s. We got this 6, these 2 2s come across, place this 2. That feels like the good stuff to start with. We actually could have marked 5 and 9 in these cells. And if we did that, we'd actually see that this, following that notation up, this 5 coming across, this 5 coming down, it puts in a 4-5 pair, so we can get that 6. So I at least fulfilled my wish of getting 2 2s and 2 6s before other numbers. Not overrunning our notation, I would have marked this as a 9 node at that time. With the 4 and 5 over here, this is now an 1-8 pair. This is a 7. There's a 3 across these cells. This position being an 8 feels really worth marking, and then finishing this box, which is the 3 and 7, we have the 3 up above. That feels worth marking. We've now interrupted this space where we marked the pairs before, so this 3 now clears in. We'll just mark that in. The 7 also clears in. We'll mark these in. Do they give us any other clear placements? I have a 7 note here. I think I want to come up this column. This column needs a 7 and 9 still, 7 at the top, 9 in the third row. That puts a 9 over here in one of these positions. I think I may now finally have more information to actually place where the, oh, here it is. Like after I filled this cell, the X-Wing needs to resolve itself. My notation isn't great for storing how that X-Wing was, but for sure it's these 2 corners have to take the 6s. We now get a 6 in one of these cells, and we had the 6 up here, so let's not forget to use this value now. This looks to be the only place for a 6 in row 3. Can we do more with that tension? I'm looking sort of vertically. I'm trying to think about these cells. Well, this is a 1-8 pair coming across, and it's working off this 1-8 pair, so that's a little curious. These 2 2s, though, look more important. They put a 2 right here that moves over this 9, moves down this 5. That now means there's a 5 in one of these 2 cells. That 9 coming down here cancels this option, leaves behind a 3-7 set, but actually looking at the top here, the 3 has to be in column 2. It's not in the cell, so this is 1-3-8. But we've eliminated one of those cells, so here's 3 on the left, 7 right here. These 2 7s, 2 spots for a 7, but my guess is actually I have a 1-8 pair. This needs to be 4 and 7. Here it is. I haven't marked this except in small numbers. Here's a 4, here's a 4. That 4 goes away. This has to be the 7. That means this is a 7 canceling here. This is a 3 with a 1 and 8, but this is the 3 coming across. So this is a 3 with 1, 8. That's not going to do more. Here's another 1, 8, but we have an 8 right up above. So here's an 8 and a 1. We want to take these 8s and put an 8 here. That finishes this column with a 6, and this position with a 9. That puts in a 9 and a 5. This column finishes with just the 6. We should just clear out all of our notes because right now they're telling us far too much. This 8 coming across is going to put an 8 in here, and then also come over to here, which forces a 1 and an 8, and a 1 and an 8. I now have a 1 and 3 in this zone, a sure 1. I have a 3 and 5 in this zone. I'm just, sometimes clearing the notation helps you see what constraint you've now fulfilled. Here's a 1, 4, but there's a 1 down below, so 1 is to the right. Here's 4, 4 and 5, and 5 and 2, and we'll end on the 2 for the 26 puzzle in 6:25, great solving time. So let's sort of close out today's session with just some thoughts in general about these grids and how to see the big picture when also diving into these grids. For sure, this theme, one versus many, stands out, but that most solvers will understand to work through the singles in the lower right before trying to work into the upper left. I guess it's helpful to know that you can't really make Sudoku grids if this one doesn't appear as a given, and because of that, how the one works into the rest of the puzzle will be somewhat constrained. And it probably means you can do a lot in this nonette just from what's around it, and probably also a lot in these rows or these columns. And if you saw how I was focusing on at least checking for the naked singles, I was actually marking them by pairs sometimes, like we had the 6, 7, 8 row that gave a single there and a single there. Those are the ways you're going to chip into this puzzle. You got to chip away digit by digit into this open space. So more traditional form of my solve, less memory probably of this puzzle than the others because this is much more of a visual theme than a solving theme, but a good example of a Snyder Sudoku if you want to know on the easier side how the grids go. Find the story that the grid geometry is going to tell and go with it. T-ball is a lot more interesting. This is a geometry I've published a little bit on my blog, and I will accept from anyone in this world a cool puzzle that uses this geometry. I think there are at least 5 more stories to tell with T-ball, but you saw some example of a really crazy triple swordfish, I don't know what, being set up at the start. Why is this grid interesting? This grid is limited in both hidden singles and naked singles. It's not absolutely limited from both of them. I have some different grids which you can't have a hidden single to start or can't have a naked single to start, but it's pretty rare to have a grid which has a geometry which almost forces pairs or triples unless you're deliberate in where you place things. So let's do this exercise together. Where in a given white cell of this puzzle, ignore what the current numbers are in the 24 givens, but if I were to label puzzles based off these positions, where can I actually position a hidden single as the first move? A thing to think about here is how do you steer into these empty rows and columns? Well, I can't have any number here that removes these 3 cells. So however I put numbers here, I'm probably left with these 3 options or these 3 options unless I have 2 in a row and 2 in a column and they all point to a space. So it turns out, if you really think about the math of this puzzle, there are 9 cells, which are those intersections of the empty rows and columns, which can be hidden singles. And the only way to fill them, let me show you how to, for instance, make this be a 1. To make this be a 1, you put a 1 in one of these 2 cells and a 1 in the other row in the last position. So box 2 and 3 get a 1, and that says one of these 3 cells is a 1. And then down here you need to have a 1 here and a 1 here, something like that. But anyway, you eliminate 2 columns too. And so collectively take a space where you have 5 things you can't really point into. You get rid of 2 of them one way, you get rid of 2 of them the other way. There's no other way to get rid of more than 1 at a time. This is going to be a really telegraphed hidden single if you find it, because you'll have 4 of the same number all pointing into one spot. So 2 and 2 always give you a placement. And that's where if I'm scanning looking at 2 at a time, my notation should run into those things. I think I ran into 3 Snyder notes and 0 hidden singles. This geometry is going to always have a place where Snyder notation will not do well if you only know the hidden single side of it. So let's tell the naked single story. Which cells in this grid could possibly be naked singles? We have 9 hidden single places. Are there more or less naked single places in this puzzle? How I look at this is I think about all the cells that are given before the numbers are in and counting up how many gray cells they see. This is what actually happens if you do this across this puzzle. There are 6 cells which could be naked singles. They can only be a naked single if they see 8 distinct things, but for instance, this cell here sees the cell above. This is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 7, this is 8. Those are true in all these symmetric positions. Cell like this only sees 7 things. It sees 1, 2, 3 in the region, 4 more down below, 7 total. Cell like this also sees just 7 things, 1 up above, 4 in the row, 2 more down below, 7 total. So we have 6 places for singles. We have 18 total spots which would work together to form naked pairs, but notice like you're not forming naked pairs over in these empty columns. Surely not forming a naked pair here. You're gonna have 7 choices for this candidate to be like 1 and 2, leave behind 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the geometry of this puzzle is saying here are some spots to look. And I'd maybe scramble this grid a bit if I were to publish it again, but at least in this competition, we ended up with 2 of these zones working really highly together, and that's because of how 5, 6, and 7 were used in this set to form these pairs in the spots where naked pairs can form, and then across the triples, which are basically hidden triples in this puzzle because of how the 5, 6, 7 go, they sit in just column 1, column 5, column 9, form a really curious geometry that just opens up all at once you see a 5 up here. So it can be a hard puzzle because it's got a narrow solving path, but it only needs pairs and it needs this visualization to get into the grid. So this is not typical notation unless you think about by-value cells. And the first thing after hidden Snyder notation is by-value notation. So this is how I would have solved it. You got to see me solving in another form of my Snyder notation, which is I'm doing geometrically focused solving. And geometrically focused solving, you saw me start to just mark out some of these cells. I kind of worked through all these positions. I could also work like here's 2, 5, here's 2, 7. This is still 2, 5, 7, too many there. Other ways to go through this grid. But cool story and a lot to learn from this grid in general, not just this specific one, but if you see grids like this in the future, good to think about them again. And the last thing is get to 26. I'll just turn off the timer since it's been on this whole time. But we did solve this puzzle in 6 minutes, 25 seconds. 2 and 6 are a theme across a lot of the puzzles in the set, but they're also a specific theme in this puzzle. There's a key limitation on that 2-6 working together. And just that 6s are curious, including this 2-6 in the middle, eventually seeing that these 3 rows are forming a swordfish or a pair into an X-Wing is really the necessary step. We ran into that in the solve because we had to run into it in the solve. It's very difficult to make a puzzle where this is the forced first step, but that's a real trait of my own construction, and so that you should be used to it by now if you're playing a future US Sudoku qualifying test or a future World Championship where I'm an author or a Grand Prix in different forms. This is some of the part of advanced tips. So now that we've talked through the specific puzzles, here are things to always keep in mind, and I've done in different ways across competitions through my life. For sure, a month or two before any competition, I try to get as many puzzles from the maker of that competition as I can. If that's a computer generator in a newspaper, I just solve a lot of puzzles from that same generator. I want to understand a few things. How easy are their easies? How medium are the mediums? Like, do they use a lot of givens? Do they have like a 24 given puzzle, but it flows really fast as an easy? Like most solvers have like a 30 to 33 given easy. Let's go back to our first puzzle here, which is our easy puzzle. This has 9 and 7 and 5 and 3 and 1. That's going to add up. So we have 26 givens here, but we have a really open space and really cramped space. So like this is in the space of easies, but it definitely has an easier corner and a harder corner. And so this is a gradation of how the solves go. But if you're expecting a puzzle from a computer generator where you got random symmetry or no symmetry, it's all around the grid, you're going to places that are mostly full and just filling them out. If you think it's a handcrafted grid with some story to it, go to the story parts. Go to the bottom rows, the right rows, eventually work your way to the empty corner. Makes sense. This also holds for the medium and harder puzzles too. And it holds for what kinds of steps will show up. Like if you've looked at Grandmaster puzzles for years, I don't even know what a WXYZ wing is. If you put me on a whiteboard to try to describe what that terminology fully means, I would get some part of it wrong, maybe the Y part of it, maybe the Z part, I don't know. Like I know X wings, I sort of know XY wings, I'll call them Y wings. I don't have the terminology people use these days, right? Because it's changed over the time I had it. What I do know is how to spot cells and what their derived results are. And I know ways to kind of make a highly telegraphed swordfish or X-Wing. It's just like, look at where the 6s go in the constrained rows. Like this is set up right at the start. It's almost a training exercise. This would be great on a Sudoku coaching site to just tell you what an X-Wing looks like or what a swordfish looks like. These are patterns where you have constrained spots. And often it's the case that like this cell isn't there, but this 2 eliminates from there. So it's like only these 2 positions can be a 2. But there's something that in general, this is just a clean form where you don't have to worry about the other givens. It's just really the empty cells themselves give a curious 3 and 3 and 3 pattern. And that's what you use here. And that's the thing to note is that like a Snyder Sudoku, the puzzles I make will often use something curious about the geometry, but tell a new story with the geometry you see. And so if you're going to spend the first minute looking for singles in the puzzle that's got the most points, you're going to be losing a minute looking for singles where you should look for a big picture story and say, what are some weak spots in this grid? The weak spot in puzzle 2 was thinking about these zones. The weak spot in puzzle 3 was thinking about these zones. And this still takes some of the solvers 5, 6, 7 minutes. It took the world champions who were practicing this test for us and giving us test solving times 3 or 4 minutes in different ways. Although one of them did guess on the third puzzle, but there's so much constrained in this puzzle with the buy values. There are other ways to go about this, but the logical path is the one we showed. So those are the lessons today on the advanced side. Know your generators, know if they're human or not. Like they all have things they do include and don't include. And so you can be more prepared for the tournament if you understand that. And for sure, if you're solving for Snyder Sudoku, my favorite thing to do is have the hard step very early or exactly the first step, and then it's downhill from there. They're almost like just one cell Sudoku. They just continue since we want to get a full answer key from you. But that big picture story is going to certainly help you out with future puzzles from me. Keep watching this channel, whether you like, comment, or subscribe. We have a lot more great Sudoku content coming, and please come to SudokuCon. That's another place I'll be presenting more of these stories, and we'll love to see some of you in person or through the chat as an online participant in the live form of that where you can join. So take care, and we'll see you again soon.